So, if anybody knows me well, they will know that I've gone through a lot of different journeys with alcohol throughout my life, from certain people around me to myself, and seeing a lot of good ways and bad ways of it being used more than anything. And it's such a massive thing these days in life. And I think it's wrong for anybody to turn around and say, you should not have alcohol. You should not have alcohol at all, because again, it's just about moderation more than anything. And there's a lot of questions out there. What is the correct amount? What is not the correct amount? How often should I have it? And I think it comes down to two things, and I always like to base these two things around myself. And actually three things thinking about it. So number one is looking at what the recommended guided allowance is for a weekly intake of alcohol. For example, this is a little bit different in countries, and the UK, for men, actually, for men it used to be 21, and for women it was 14. Excuse me. But recently what they've done is they've brought down I think it was last year or a few years ago, they brought down the number to 14 units for men as well, which was interesting. So there must have been some further studies there in regards to what is the safer limit to have of alcohol a week. So if I want to have a little bit of alcohol, I'll always be aware of, how much am I having? Is it within the allowance? And not just that, but how often am I having it? And is there on a certain occasion that I actually want it? Having a beer, I like a beer, or I like a glass of red wine. I really like a glass of red wine from time to time. But it's about the timing of it. I find the timing is probably the most important thing. Are you using it to for a social gathering? Are you using it to enhance the experience of something? Or are you just using it because you're using it as a coping mechanism for you to just make yourself feel a little bit better about yourself? So if you're stuck at home on your own and you just don't feel that good, or you've had a bad day and you just want to have a drink on the night, then in my opinion, I don't think that's the best way to use alcohol. And there's no right or wrong way to it, but you want to be using it for positive events more than trying to mask something up, trying to make it change the way that you feel because you don't want to feel that way anymore. Use it as a pusher of the positive than a pullback of a negative. And the other part that comes down into that is, more importantly, is this affecting my life? Is alcohol stopping me from performing the way that I have to perform in my job with the roles that I have in my life? Is it having a negative side effect, or is it not? And this is where it all comes about balance again. And I've seen and I've been through it myself, where I used to be a very heavy binge drinker. Every Saturday I would drink myself to the point where I was not enjoying myself, and I would begin to enjoy myself. So I knew that I was timing things right with alcohol consumption for the certain events. But then what would happen is I would drink too much, and then a good night would turn into a bad night. And what it's about is something that I'm actually really proud of myself that I can say I can do over many, many years of trial and errors, is I can really kind of just hit that stop button when I'm drinking now. So if I've having a good time, it's like I don't need to have any more to drink. I'm having a good time. I've had a few drinks. I've had a few glasses of wine or a few beers. And I think that's the sweet spot that everybody wants to be working towards. And it might not work for everybody. My dad, for example, my dad had huge problems with alcohol, throughout his 30s and 40s. And he had to just stop. And I'm so proud of him, and I love my dad to pieces. And it's the biggest thing that he's such a role model in that area for him to just stop. But he knows that he has to just stop completely, completely ice cold stop. Otherwise, he will go back into that habit. And it works for some people and it doesn't. And I think if anybody out there is struggling with alcohol consumption, then I am actually I'm going to say that if anyone wants to talk, drop me a message, drop me an email. I'd be willing to have a chat about things and just understand alcohol, because I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. There's not a rule of definitely you should have it, and there's not a rule that definitely you shouldn't have it. It's about how it works in your life and how you relate to it and your habitual relationship with alcohol.